What's going on, you guys? It's J Mike, aka Humbra Holmes for Black Nerd Alliance, BNA 1/5 of the fifth. I want to talk to you guys about Mortal Kombat today. So I know we put in the story, if you want to see a review for Mortal Kombat from Black Nerd Alliance. So I'm stepping in to give you guys not really a full on review, but my rant of the movie. So for me, Mortal Kombat started for me in arcades. So used to go to the arcade. As you can tell, I'm an arcade guy from the background. Uh, Going to the arcades with Mortal Kombat, it was crazy because you had this new game that came in to compete against Street Fighter, and they had the photorealistic graphics, but the difference was the violence and the detail to the story. So the story was adult, it was next level, and it translated to movies. So you had the additional Mortal Kombat that came out in 1995. Then you had Mortal Kombat Annihilation. You had the Scorpion's Revenge. And then you also had the Mortal Kombat series that people highly loved. And then you had the 2021 Mortal Kombat, and that's what brings us here today. So the 2021 Mortal Kombat. Overall, I think that they actually had some things correct. They got some things right. For one, they got the fatalities right. They got some of the casting right. Some of the casting they didn't get right. They got some of the Easter eggs right. Some of the Easter eggs, it was kind of corny. It came off corny. They changed the storyline some, and I understand why they did that, because for the casual fans, they had to showcase something to lure them in, and they had to kind of explain how a person can have powers. From a gamer coming into it, you don't ask those questions. You're like, bro, Scorpion spear comes out his hand. It just happens. That's what it is. But for the casual moviegoer or the casual video gamer, they had to go into depth and explain why they had those powers. So for what they got right, I love Sonya. Sonya was spot on. Kano, at first, he was kind of weird to me being comic relief, but he grew on me. He actually stepped in and filled Johnny Cage's role of not being in the movie. If I haven't said it already, spoiler alert. I'm gonna put it in the video. Spoiler alert. Cole Young was a newer person that didn't make sense to me, but we'll get into that. Kano was done well. I think the casting for Jax was done well. The casting for Sonya was done well. So you have that. The fatalities, it was very, very gory. I love that. They showed great fight scenes. They had the special effects on point. That was great. From a casual watch, it was okay. From an MK fan, it left a lot to be desired. So the things that stood out to me the most that I did not like. Cole Young's character was just this made up character that they put in the movie to bridge Scorpion dying into coming back. So that was his bloodline being left behind, and that brought Scorpion back. Fast forward to the end of the movie. Again, spoiler alerts. What I didn't like about that is that it was lazy writing. You could have explained why Scorpion came back besides that. So now you have this guy that he's not a fighter. He just has this mark, and we'll get to the marks. He just has this mark, and he carries Scorpion's blood, and his bloodline just says, okay, he's going to come back from that. So that was the big climax at the end of the movie. I didn't like it. The shadow markings, well, not the shadow markings, but the dragging markings for Mortal Kombat chosen challengers, it didn't make sense to me, because if you have this marking and you're fighting against somebody else, then one person is going to have powers, the other person is not going to have powers, and that's not how Mortal Kombat works, right? Everybody had a power. Liu Kang had fire. He had the bicycle kick. He had the flying kick. Like, he had different powers. Kung Lao could control the hat, teleport, whatever. So how can these people fight against each other, bad or good, and not have powers because they don't have the marking? So Sonya initially had powers in the first game. She didn't have the markings, so she didn't have powers in the earlier part of the movie, but she had powers after she killed Kano and took his powerful laser eye. So that didn't make sense to me at all, and I felt like that was lazy writing. I understand why they kind of did it, because they had to explain where the powers came from, but I think if they showed that the shadow marking feel that if they showed that the shadow markings were generated from birth, then they could have explained powers as they progressed and understood what was going on and all of that. But they didn't. So that's a gap to me in the story because it's like, okay, does Sonya only have fire? And then a lot of the arcana, that's the coming into the powers as Mortal Kombat 2021 explained it. A lot of the arcana was you had to fill out and see what your powers were. So Jax, spoiler alert, was beaten badly by Sub-Zero, and he froze his arms, took his arms. And as we know in the video game world, he has uh, metal arms that's implanted. And from that, he can do the ground pound, he can throw the fireball and stuff like that. In the movie, his arms look horrible that they added. The monks added it by the add, not special forces. In the game, special forces added it. So it may be a lot of nitpicking that I'm doing, but it, I'm gonna tell you why. So with the monks adding his arms, if his powers were that his arms would get bigger, they added these arms, and then later on when his arcana grew, then his arms came to these massive robotic arms, which is like they added that. So how can that be your power if they added that, So it's like if you're explaining it that way, it was a genetic add. So from it being a genetic add, that shouldn't increase robotic arms. It didn't make sense to me. None of that made sense. Uh, Forgot to mention Kabal. They got Kabal right. Like that was perfect. Kabal was freaking perfect. From the voice, from his costume, to how they showed his special powers for speed, his movements. I mean, it was Cabal. They got that down pat. That was perfect. Kung Lao was perfect. From the hat, from the casting, Kung Lao was perfect. I like Kung Lao as he was. They showed him doing a fatality, and it's like every time they made progress doing something like a fatality or anything like that, and then it was kind of like corny at the end. They look in the camera and say flawless victory. And it was like, come on, bro. We know we're watching Mortal Kombat. You don't have to do that. But they did. So that's here and there. There was another fight scene that didn't make sense to me, and that was the fight scene with Reptile versus Kano, Cole Young, and Sonya. And they pretty much bit from the first movie where you had Reptile walking around and you're like, something's here, but I don't know what it is. And they show Reptile, invisible. And then you find out that it's an actual reptile. And then you find this reptile. And then he shows himself. And then you fight him and you defeat him. It's the exact same thing happened in the movie. So from creativity, I did not like that. It wasn't creative. It wasn't something new. And why is Reptile in a reptilian state in these movies all the time? He doesn't play that way on the game. He's in a human form. So they need to come to a origin of him being in a human form or going into that human form like the first one did. They did do that. But in this one, he was straight up like T-Rex and he's fighting like Godzilla and stuff, swinging his tail. That was whack. I didn't like it. I did like that Kano did the fatality. So it was like little Easter eggs with that. So that's cool. On the casting standpoint, Raiden, I didn't understand. Raiden didn't look anything like Raiden. I didn't know that was Raiden until they introduced him. Shang Tsung, I didn't know who Shang Tsung was. I was like, who is this? And I kind of put pieces together, but he didn't look like Shang Tsung. Sub-Zero, you got that off the bat. Scorpion, you got that off the bat. Sonya, Jax, uh, Kano, you knew off the bat. Cole Young is like, who is this dude? But I expected him because I kind of read up on it. So you have that. Melina did not look like Melina. But she wasn't bad to look at either. Fellas, if you hear me, holla if you hear me. But she wasn't what Melina would have looked like, but she was nice eye candy for the movie. So you have that. I do like that they went against the grain with the storyline and say, hey, we're not doing a tournament, we're not fighting by their rules, we're coming to fight them as they are, and we're just going to double and all this stuff. I thought that was cool to kind of go against the grain because everybody know the tournament story. So just do something different from that standpoint. If I had to rate the movie, I would rate the movie, say out of 1 out of 5, not 1 out of 5, out of 5 being a fist. I would rate it 3.5. I would rate it 3.5. 2021 had high expectations, and it also had a movie to beat. It had to be Mortal Kombat 1995. Clearly, everyone thought it was going to be a better movie. To me, I'm edging 1995 because it kept true to the story that I knew as a kid. And with my nostalgic glasses, it was more reminiscent of the character. I can see who was who. Uh, Raiden in this movie was blah. Shang Tsung was blah. It's like key characters were just okay. Like they did my boy Jax wrong. They did Reptile wrong. They killed Kung Lao. I think they killed him way early. Even though he does die in the game, I think they killed him like way early into the series. They could have killed him the second game or something like that. The second movie. Um, Kabal was nice. They had two characters on there that was just kind of blah, like Rieko and then the Bat Princess. I forget her name, but she's an obscure character from a later game that wasn't that popular, but they know who she is from Mortal Kombat. But it was just like, meh. But I guess they had to add them to kill off somebody to make it realistic. Like we do fatalities and stuff. We're gonna kill these people, and they did it. Liu Kang's fatality with the dragon was great. I like that they paid tribute to his fatality. With that, then you had the Kung Lao fatality with the spinning hat, the Kano fatality. So that was cool. So they got that right. They got the fighting scenes right. It's just the story was really, really lacking. And when you compare that to 1995, even though it was less gory than this one, I still hold 1995 higher. Annihilation, that's a whole nother movie. But if we're going from the reboot versus the OG, the original Mortal Kombat, I still hold it higher based off nostalgic purposes and the story. But with this Mortal Kombat, it is a great watch for a casual fan. It's a great watch for a hardcore fan too. Don't get me wrong. You're just gonna be picking apart certain things like that. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Cole Young, where does he go going forward? I don't know. They created this whole new character, and then now he's gonna be a part of the future of Mortal Kombat. Is weird. Will he be in the game? Like, what are we doing? I don't know. It's just he's just there. They just tossed him up, and he's in the mix now. Scorpion is back. Scorpion has some kind of tie to Cole Young, so that they have to keep Cole Young if they're going to summon Scorpion to come help them in scenes and stuff like that. Sub-Zero most likely will come back as Ermac. If you follow the game, will Melina come back? We don't know. Who will be introduced in the second movie? In the sequel, I believe Johnny Cage will be introduced. Kano is dead, so you have Johnny Cage to backfill and be comic relief for the next movie. So let me know what your thoughts. Let me know what you think. This is Black Nerd Alliance. Once again, I'm Humbra Holmes. Leave a comment below under the video. Peace.